Hello and welcome to Buildings of Tomorrow. My name is Jon Lester, and in today's episode, we are talking about how unified data and cloud software can help us achieve our sustainability goals. I'm joined today by Marjut Rautavaara. She is the head of cloud software products for digital buildings at Siemens Smart Infrastructure. Marjut, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Jon, and thanks for having me here.
It's an absolute pleasure. And we're always excited to talk about sustainability as a topic because it's something that's so important for our industry. So I can't wait to talk about it in the context of cloud software. But before we dive in there, give us a little bit of an overview. Why is sustainability so important specifically for us in the building industry?
So the energy and sustainability, I think it really has made a comeback into the top of the agendas of the corporate facility management and our customers. So, energy management and sustainability is an area which has been already a long time in the buildings domain. But we all see how important now the fighting the climate change, reducing the carbon emissions is in the world, and the buildings are having such a major role in this area. So we've seen the reports that the buildings contribute 40% of the overall energy consumption in the world. And on the other hand, then this population shift from the rural to urban areas, 68% of population will live in urban areas by 2050. That creates an enormous pressure on the buildings. So we are definitely really focusing on the energy and sustainability as how we are creating solutions for smart buildings in the future.
Absolutely agree. Exactly as you described. It's such a huge challenge, and it's not something that's new for us in the industry, but like you described, it becomes more and more important as we try and achieve these goals, and we see more countries, more companies really committing to sustainability goals, which are going to be a huge challenge for us, and we can't achieve them if we don't have more and more of our building stock working the way that it needs to. You mentioned there, this is an area where you're focusing, working towards smart buildings as really an enabler to achieve these goals. What's your vision? If you looked at the space where you work and the technology and the solutions that you work on for smart buildings, how do you see that vision fitting towards this sustainability topic?
Yes, our vision and the mission really is to connect those buildings, get those buildings smarter so that we can create that transparency of the data. Because the data is the foundation. Without the data, you cannot really act upon that. So what we want to do is really transform how the building data is made available and used in the digital buildings for the key areas of the energy and sustainability, safety and security of the people in the building. So they're managing the total cost of ownership in the buildings. So the data is the key, and then we can bring up all kinds of use cases on top of that, and the energy monitoring, energy reporting, energy optimization as part of that.
Yeah, perfect. And that connection is really such an important part, as you described, because the data is the secret here. And of course, data is not itself valuable. It's what we do with the data and how we use it. And this is where we come to the topic for today, which is around unified data and then software solutions that really are built upon that. How does this unified data and the cloud software side of things really bring that vision to life and bring the focus onto the sustainability topic?
Yeah, if you look into the how buildings are managed today, there is this concept of things being there in the basement or on the roof. But the people who are actually interacting with the building data and who need to do this analysis, for example, of the energy and sustainability of reporting on that, they are not there in the basements or roofs, they are in their offices. So what we want to do is really to make that data available wherever the people are, and the cloud technology is then the perfect solution for that. So by connecting the buildings, enabling the data then, and creating those analytics and applications on top of that, which allow then the users, for example, then the track the energy consumption, benchmark the buildings across each other, do that on the global scale across the fleet of buildings, providing then the key KPIs on the consumption, not only about the energy, but also other KPIs like the water usage in the buildings. So this is what we can enable by the cloud technology easily to our customers.
Yeah, perfect. And I really like one of the topics you touched on there for us to remember also from the building world. We certainly, at the very start of the conversation around efficient buildings, when our industry really began, we were very heavily focused on energy efficiency, and definitely energy consumption is a huge part of what we talk about when we talk about sustainability. But you just mentioned water consumption. There is a lot more to sustainability than just energy consumption, isn't there?
Yeah, it is about consumption, any kind of resources. And I think this is an area which still has a lot of potential to evolve as we go forward, because now buildings are becoming prosumers. So they are not only consuming the resources, they are also generating energy with the renewable energy sources and in the buildings, the circular economy and the waste management, things like that. The sustainability is far beyond the energy reporting, actually. So I think we will see a wealth of innovation in the area of sustainability in the buildings. It has been a bit of a challenge to always find this kind of a return of investment and the cost aspect of that. But thanks to the new policies now in the world, like the regulations that come in order to make these buildings more sustainable, more energy efficient, then that also creates the, let's say, a deeper motivation and the need actually to act on that and work on these solutions.
Yeah, definitely. And that motivation, as you say, is something that's really important, because when we talk about bringing this technology to buildings and more buildings, that involves a huge number of buildings that already exist today. So you need additional motivation to really bring this into that case. And maybe we could talk a little bit about that use case. Does the flexibility and the scalability, let's call it, of cloud-based software make it easier for us to address some of these existing buildings, the building stock that's out there today, maybe not reaching the performance levels that we need them to reach at some point?
Yeah, that's really a good point, because I mean, if you look into the modern buildings, they are already quite energy efficient by design. So there's not so much that we can do about them other than then really adding the component of how those buildings are actually used and the occupancy and all of that to bring further efficiencies. But once we look then to the existing building stock, I think there's a huge amount of things that need to be done. And that's not then only about the cloud software and what we can do in terms of reporting. That's also then the deeper retrofits that need to happen in these buildings, then to provide the building automation that you can actually provide those means to control and optimize those buildings. But what that requires then, when we're talking about then our cloud technology, is that we have that openness, we have the possibility to interface the existing systems or the variety of the systems that exists in the building stock out there.
Yeah, and you just mentioned a great word there, openness, and I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into that. How important is that openness, and what does it enable us to do beyond or additional to what you just mentioned, bringing in existing systems, etc.?
Yeah, I think it works two ways. So on one hand, it's the openness to be able to really interface any building out there. And that's part of then the beauty of this cloud technology, that we are able to do that. But the second part is then we want to future-proof the systems as well. So, I mean, this technology is evolving really fast. So, and it's possible also to work with the different solutions out there to be able to connect the data from the different systems, because that's where the true magic happens, when you are able to correlate, for example, as I said earlier, the occupancy versus the consumption in the buildings. And then there are full ecosystems out there. What we've learned about is that, let's say, the customers have their different needs. The openness is also very key in order to let's say, enable this facilitation of these different needs of the customers.
Yeah, and that's also a really great point, because when we talk about sustainability, every building is used in a different way by a different building user, by a different customer for their own specific requirements. And that needs the ability for this technology to address this, absorb this, and be flexible to enable us to take this kind of action and achieve or support the achievement of those goals. When you mentioned their future, and I think one of the important things, as you say, it's not just the technology evolving, but if we went back 10 years ago, obviously the goals that someone would want to achieve with a building 10 years ago is very different from the goals that we want to achieve today. What does this openness enable us to do for some of the topics that we might not even know are going to be on the horizon, in 1 year, 2 year, 5 years time?
Yeah, it's a great question there. So how we picture the world is that one of the key components in this openness and really making that data actionable and usable is to create those digital twins of the building. So to connect the physical and digital worlds together. To be able to structure the data in the right way, so that then we can apply all kinds of analytics on top of that. And that's really opening up then the field for innovation when you are doing these analytics, not only for the energy optimization, but also the other use cases there in the building. So I think the building industry has not been the one that has been on top of the innovation in the past, but we can see a huge acceleration and the speed and innovation in here. enabled then by the IoT, the new cloud technologies as we are speaking about in here, and the data analytics.
Yeah, perfect. And is this where, one of the topics that we raised at the start of the episode was unified data and harmonized data? Is that where this topic starts to really become alive and start to enable these use cases?
Yeah, without data, you cannot do that. So that's definitely the key, to be able to connect the buildings, digitize the buildings, and then really work on that data on top and make that also scalable. So I think also oftentimes this data analytics is seen a bit of like a science. But I think what we want to do is really to democratize that so that it will be made available, and the cloud is the perfect vehicle in order to do that. Because as I said earlier, you are then enabling the users wherever they are and with the different skill sets then to interact with the data.
Yeah, and that's such an important part of it, as you mentioned in some of the use cases you described before, this ability to benchmark against different buildings across your city, across your region, across the world, and to have that knowledge and that expertise sitting, it's not even just an office in that same city, but it could be someone with the skills sitting in an office on the other side of the world that's still able to analyze and make decisions and make improvements to the way that a building is operated, which is that additional power, as you described. Marjut, thank you so much for the conversation. I get the feeling that we've got many more conversations to have in this direction as an industry, as an organization. Yourselves and your team start to build more and more technology in this direction and more functionality that goes with it. The last question I had for you was, how do we get there? You described how the speed of innovation in our industry has really hit a pace that we've never seen before. And it's a really exciting time from that perspective to understand what's happening and what could happen in the near future. But we really are, in some cases, in the early stages of this journey. What motivates you? What motivates your team to be at the forefront and to take us through this journey?
Well, I mean, it really comes down to how we say technology with a purpose. So fighting the climate change and providing the means to really reduce those carbon emissions and making these buildings more sustainable. It's just such a big task, or such a big motivation to us in order to really develop these technologies. And on the other hand, then making it something that is not only available to the top tier buildings, but really making that, in a way, democratizing that building data to all kinds of buildings. So this is how we feel it, almost like a mission for us to really develop these solutions for the markets and customers.
Yeah, that's a great way to finish. As you say, the motivation is there from an industry, from a society, because we have this climate change, we have this decarbonization and sustainability goals we have to hit. And then, like you described, this democratization, making this kind of technology, making something that perhaps is viewed, or at least used to be, more complex and more difficult to deploy, make it easier so that we can put it in more buildings and really drive that impact and multiply the effect that we can have in achieving these goals. Marjut, thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Jon.
And thank you all out there for listening or looking to us in this episode. Please remember to like, subscribe on this show. We have regular episodes coming out, and you'll hear more from Marjut in the near future. We hope to talk about how these cloud softwares and these different unified data platforms can really start to drive some of the core goals that we have around our industry and how buildings are operated to create more smart buildings around. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you very soon.